A lot of people were really upset when Shen came out, in that he was a tank support ninja, and people aren't really a big fan of creativity, despite the fact that ninjas are well known to have been bodyguards. This gets me kind of curious as to how people are going to react to the second out of three ninjas coming out, this one being a Yordle caster ninja. I present to you Kennen, the Heart of the Tempest. Much like Annie, Kennen's crowd control comes from his passive. The way his passive works is that every time an ability connects with a target, it applies a stack of Mark of the Storm. Once a target has 3 stacks of Mark of the Storm, indicated by the swirling lightning orbs around the Annie's picture, the target is stunned and Kennen receives a bonus damage. Because Kennen has several AoE abilities, it won't be uncommon to see him AoE stunning entire teams. However, he is squishy, and doing so comes at high risk. Kennen's Q is rather unimpressive. It's a single skill shot that does a moderate amount of damage and has, I believe, 50% AP scaling. Because he uses energy like the rest of the ninjas, it's good during the laning phase to harass, but the damage scaling late game is pretty negligible, and it becomes used primarily to apply marks or apply a Riley slow if you have it. His W has a passive and an active component to it. The passive component is that every 5th hit will deal 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80% of his attack damage as bonus damage, depending on rank. The active component is that any target with a mark around him will receive an additional mark and be zapped for X amount of damage based on rank. The bonus damage from the hit, the 80%, applies a bonus mark to the target. It is an AoE and the range is very good, so it's very good for farming if you also pick up your E, and it's very good for harassing if you can get marks consistently on an enemy champion. Shen's E is Lightning Rush, and it causes him to turn into a ball of lightning and makes him unable to auto-attack. It increases his movement speed and deals damage to any unit he passes through, as well as gives him the ability to ghost through targets. Passing through a target puts a mark on them, and using this in conjunction with his W is a good way to AoE down creep waves and quickly apply marks to multiple targets. Keep in mind that while in Lightning Rush you cannot auto-attack, but you are able to click it off by pressing E again. The downside to this is that if you spam E waiting for it to come off cooldown, you might instantly turn it off, as I have several times. Kennen's ultimate involves creating a lightning field around him, and every 0.5 seconds a lightning bolt will shoot down at an enemy champion. At max rank, there are 10 lightning bolts, which means that his ultimate will be active for 5 seconds. Each lightning bolt applies a mark to a target, but it cannot apply the mark more than once to the same target. The damage is moderate, so we're not looking at something like a Fiddlesticks ult, where standing in it will decimate your entire team. But it is a good way to get marks out, and using this in conjunction with your E and your W is a good way to burst someone down as well as apply marks to an AoE. As far as skill build goes, I would max W first because it is very, very good at harassing, and I've heard some good news about building him as an attack speed champion with a single target lockdown. Building him as a mage seems like a good idea initially, but once you play with him for a while, you're going to realize that his burst isn't what you would expect from a high quality mage like Fiddlesticks or Annie or Rise. He's played best as a role that doesn't really have too many champions standing in it right now. He's played best as a controller. What he should be doing is disrupting the enemy team as much as he possibly can by throwing out stuns on primary targets, hindering movement with the Riley Scepter, or just generally being a nuisance. If this is something you plan on doing, then building him cooldown reduction is a good way to go, and you should definitely accommodate for a little bit of survivability, so Riley's is also a good investment. but attack speed is going to be your primary source of control, because every 5th hit will proc a mark with your W, which then lets you use your W to get a second mark, and then you can either use your ultimate for a third mark, lightning rush for a third mark, or your Q for a third mark. And anyone you don't use will still be available afterwards to get a stun directly after. Overall, Kennen is pretty fun and has a rather unique playstyle, so I would definitely give him a shot, and with a few tweaks he might be one of the top tier champions, but right now he feels pretty balanced with a decent amount of risk for reward. There are also a couple new items on the test realm, so stay tuned while I do a review on them. This has been Pharaoh with League Top 10, and I hope to see you guys soon.